Dr. Orr.
Welcome to our Light Talks Live.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about external resistance, which we started talking about 2 weeks ago in our last
Right.
episode, and specifically astrology and what happens when um, the stars don't align for us or feel like they're aligning for
Yeah, and
us. Like,
and with regard to the astrology piece, like the astrology is designates energy patterns that we're working with, energy patterns that we're experiencing. They could be our own energy patterns, they could be energy patterns with the people that we're interacting with and surrounded with. They could be universal energy patterns. And sometimes we encounter energy patterns that feel much more challenging to us. And then other times, if you're paying attention, you'll notice energy patterns where there's much more of a flow.
yeah. So what do you do with that? How do you function within it? Um, let's dive into it.
All right. So I guess the first thing that I will say um, about dealing with energy patterns where it feels like there's major resistance. What I used to do when I was younger was try and plow through it. I'd go and I'd get my bulldozer and my my energetic bulldozer and would like steamroll through or like try and plow through. And there were certain times where that would, doing all that heavy lifting and like moving of all that energy or, earth, whatever it is, where I would be able to get to the other side and be like, oh, okay, all right, well, I did that. That was a lot of work,
Mhm.
but when I was younger, um, it didn't register until I like got older, until I was like in high school or in college. Um, and now I've developed this when I feel that resistance, I stop. I stop, I take a pause, and I assess.
Mhm. Yeah, we've been talking about pausing a lot lately.
Mhm.
It is such a key tool, and it helps us gain um, awareness, gain like just some space to figure out if we're going to push or not push.
Mhm. Because there are times where it is appropriate to do so,
Yeah,
and there are other times where it can be, disastrous, like where it can have disastrous repercussions and then you end up rebuilding from scratch.
yeah,
And so I think that at least if when you're feeling that resistance, you can take that pause and gain that awareness and gain that clarity. It gives you an opportunity to really like review everything that's going on.
yeah.
Be clear about, oh, is that the best course of action for me? Um, is that is that really the right next job for me? Is that really, you know, the like, do I really want to go to that party? Does it really make sense for me to go to that party when I had, you know, to be across town an hour away and I'm not going to be able to get home in order to get ready in a way that allows me to feel good about myself and then show up at this party, but then I'm going to arrive late. I'm going to feel bad about arriving late. Like, they're just like the
Well, yeah,
scenarios go on and
on
on
and
and on.
yeah. And for me, I mean, I think when I think back, you mentioned being, when you were young and what that was. Think back, I, um, whenever I experienced, up until recently, whenever I've experienced resistance, I have taken it as just a sign of like, nope, not right now, not worth
Mhm.
it. Like, not really um, pushing through. I never like, so a little bit of the opposite from you. Like, I was just like, okay, this is not meant to be. I'm
Mhm.
moving. Um, but recently, I'm actually working with learning to push through to things
Mhm.
that feel like they matter to me.
Right.
Um,
But that's
but
the key. But that's the key. Like
yeah.
things that are a priority to you, things that matter to you. Because there's a difference from the resistance, the energetic resistance that you feel like where um this could put you in a dangerous situation, or this may not work out in your best interest or move you forward in the way. It might move you laterally, but it might not move you forward. And so there's a difference in terms of what you're talking about, which is you're in alignment with something, and then this is a challenge that's allowing you to, build your fortitude and your ability, and maybe add a new skill into the
Mhm.
mix.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm learning that now, like, with social media and figuring out how to do something like a reel. I mean, I spend so much time and just like this resistance to it. I just couldn't understand. Like over the past couple of weeks, I've been trying to do this one thing. And I could not understand why it's not
Mhm.
wanted to. It's not working. I'm closing it for now, and I'd close it. But like the idea of what I wanted to create kept
Mhm.
coming to me. And if it didn't keep coming to me, I would have just been like, not worth
Mhm.
doing it. But it kept coming to me and kept coming to me. And there's still something in the back of my mind. I was able to finish it yesterday. I got some help from my young cousin who is much more hip and
Mhm. Savvy.
savvy with all this stuff. And I was able to finish it. And still in the back of my mind, I was like, is it universal protection? Is it universal protection that I couldn't do it the way I wanted to do it initially?
Mhm.
So I'm a big believer in pronoia and that the universe has our back.
Mhm.
And so I do feel like when there's resistance, it comes from a place of protection. It comes from a place of redirection
Mhm.
of, you know, I don't know everything. This brain does not know everything. My energy body knows a lot more.
Mhm.
My connection with my higher power knows a lot more. And my higher power knows a shit ton more. So allow, allowing that to um, taking that pause that you're talking about and allow
Well, and allowing that to filter through, right?
yeah,
So it's like if you don't take that pause, you can't figure out if that is a redirection for you. If that's a stop sign, right?
right,
Or if that's a if or it's a green light, right? So
right.
I think the pause is a huge thing whenever you come up into come up against the resistance. And I will say that the resistance, like we're all feeling so much more resistance right now. But the resistance is like
Mm,
it feels more palatable, it feels more powerful, because there's so much changing. There's so much transformative energy in the mix for all of us right now. And a lot of it is we're all going in these new directions, personally, collectively, and so forth. So, really, when the resistance comes, it's like, well, is this really what you want?
mm. Yeah. Yeah, to go back to that question. Yeah. Okay, so tell me a little bit about this. So when people get, an astrology reading of
Mhm.
their transits or of their natal chart,
Mhm.
and or if they go to, uh, psychic or something, and they get their or tarot card reading, or somebody's reading their tea leaves or whatever, and they get a reading that says things don't look so great.
Mhm.
What is the happens? Did I just freeze?
No, you just went away.
Oh, this
But I
happened
can
last
still
time
but I can
with
still hear
medical.
you.
Okay. So, what happens when that resistance comes in? When that there's an awareness of an external resistance,
Mhm.
what do you do with that? What is your take on that kind of situation?
And you're talking about getting like, utilizing other resources that are kind of giving you clues as to what's going on energetically with you? Is
Well,
that
what do you
where
do with it? I mean, if
well, okay,
I
so
mean, I have, like, as an example, right? So, like,
yeah.
this one woman told me, I went to an astrology reader and she looked at my transits, and for the next 9 years, things are going to be let's awful.
Okay, so all right.
What do
So
you do
let's
with that
just
information?
right. So let's go with that specific example. Because that's a pretty extreme example, and I'm sure some folks have run into that.
Right. Yeah.
First of all, you know, I think that you take what resonates with you and you leave the rest.
Mhm.
So I think that's first off, and that has to do with you being connected to your intuition. That has to do with you being connected to your, um, your solar plexus and your navel chakra, and being able to have some trust and faith in your intuition, and have your intuition say, "Yeah, no, that doesn't resonate with me. That does resonate with me." The other thing is that, okay, so maybe over the next 9 years, there can be a planet that's in challenging aspect. Um, it doesn't mean that life is going to be awful for 9 years.
Mhm.
It's just one, it's just one energy pattern. And you have a multitude of other energy patterns that might be asking you to strengthen and flex other muscles,
Mhm.
perhaps because for the last 10 years or 5 years, you've been relying on the muscles that now that energy pattern is kind of going to disrupt. And that allows you to build and strengthen other ones. And so, while some people might say going through a period of learning and growth, and challenge, um, might be bad. It could be uncomfortable. It could be, it could be a lot of things. Um, Yet at the same time, it doesn't mean that every single thing that is going to happen within that 9 year period falls under the category of unpleasant or bad. It's just more of, like, I think of it more as, you know, not bad years or good years, as years that are more challenging, years that are stretching you more, years
Yeah.
that are challenging you, and it could be in the area of relationships, it could be in the area of your home, it could be in, within yourself, it could be an internal journey that
Yeah.
you're on, it could be within your relationships, it could be within your career. Um, I never, you know, anytime somebody makes like a blanket
Yeah.
statement, like
Yes.
this is,
Yes.
it's only going to be this.
Yes.
That's when you dump a whole lot of salt on that statement,
Yes.
and go into it and explore further, and get more information. Because one thing that I've heard some of the other folks, that are on YouTube, say is, it really depends on the quality of the psychic, the astrologer, the intuitive.
Yeah.
It depends on the quality of their connection with
Mm.
their guides and their higher power. And not all connections to those are created equal. And I will also say for like with myself is that, some people some people it's easier to read and connect with, and other folks it's much more challenging, but for somebody else it might be easier for them
Yes.
to pick up on things. So, it really for me comes back to you taking what you like and leaving the rest. Taking what resonates with
Well,
you and
yeah,
leaving the rest.
but also, okay, so with that statement, take what you and I usually really love this statement, take what you like. I usually am like all about that. I do want to say that sometimes we're going to hear things we don't like to hear. And if you're working with somebody you trust,
Mhm.
astrologer you trust, an energy worker you trust, somebody who can support you, they're going to be able to share those things with you that you don't want to hear in a way that you can hear them.
Mhm.
So that's just one piece of, keep that in mind. Of find
And one other caveat that I will say, and I had this happen with a client the other day, um, and I gave some feedback, and they were not ready to hear it at
mm,
all. And went into like, complete like, yeah, no, mm-mm, nope,
mm, yeah,
that doesn't resonate with me, da da da.
sure.
And it might be 6 months, it might be another year before they're like, oh, now I get it. And
Yes.
so when you're working with somebody who has the confidence to, to share something, even if you're not ready to hear it, and know and trust and have faith that at some point in the future that information will click with
Yes.
the
Yes.
person.
Yes. Um, yeah. So to have, so in terms of taking what you like, or, I just want um, our viewers to also just be open to.
Right, right. Yeah, you
Am
don't
I
have
still
to.
on?
Yeah, you're still on.
You
You
don't have
don't. Go
you
ahead.
don't them like it. You don't have to agree.
Hmm.
But sometimes those things are really going to be our biggest game changers, and they're going to move us out of our comfort in a way. If we allow that to happen, like that's so, like the external resistance, like the planets, the stars, like what you said earlier, that time, it's not quote unquote bad. It's just a more, it's requiring you to step up. And for us to be willing to step up, or for us to be
Hmm.
step up, it's not going to always be comfortable, right? Like it's not always going to be like, "Oh, you're so pretty." Sometimes like, "No,
Well,
that
okay, so let's
doesn't look good."
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think where I go to is I've definitely, in the last couple of years, since the pandemic, there's been a lot of talk of going back to normal, right? Like that whole idea of
Yeah,
going back to normal, and like what is normal?
right.
Anybody can define normal any way they want to define normal,
Sure.
um, and maybe there is like this, okay, this is what my life felt like to me during this particular time period. And then now your life may feel differently to you.
Yeah.
The world may feel differently. Your environment, the things that you do, the choices that you make, the behavior that like it may feel completely different. You may live in a different way. You may have different priorities.
Mhm.
And I think that um we get sometimes we get stuck on these like labels of like, well, it's not normal, or this isn't normal, or I want to go back to normal.
Right.
And it's like, there's a place for sentimentality and nostalgia. And I love Dirty Dancing, just
Mm,
like a lot
mm,
of other people. Um, but at the same time, like I don't I don't want to live in Dirty Dancing, like
right.
um that's that's not the present moment. And so I think that's what we're kind of when you're faced with external resistance, it's really for me, it's become this trigger to go into being present,
Mhm.
as if I'm not present.
Yeah.
It's like this reminder, like, okay, be present. And what's the next right step for me? What's the next right action for me? And you don't have to decide, oh, I'm gonna move my entire family across country, or I'm gonna quit my job, or it's it's like, what's the next right step? And what the next right step might be is taking that pause, giving yourself that time
Yes.
to assess and gain clarity,
Yes. Absolutely.
as well as acknowledging the fact that this might be really challenging for you.
Yeah, really hard,
Yeah.
you know, for help. I think that's the other thing that, like, I really am remembering is not doing it alone. Uh,
Yes, that's huge.
and I mean, just like as an example, like this weekend, we were trying to figure out if we're gonna go visit my niece in New York, and like breaking our heads, like, should we go on Saturday? Should we go on Sunday? Should we go in the morning? Should we go like just all these like, should we come back? Should we sleep there? Should all these like ideas, right? And talking about it out loud, all of a sudden my aunt goes, "Why doesn't she come?" It was like, why didn't that idea enter into our minds, right? So, like, just opening up the creative flow between people,
Mhm.
it takes us out of like the our own thinking. It takes us out of like of
That
the
there's only one right answer and one way to do it, and
yeah,
then what it does is, like you're saying, it brings you into that creative process
creativity.
where a possible even better solution can
Yeah,
arise.
yeah, that only another person can see. And other people see us in very different ways, and other people see the world in very, very different ways. And that could be because of their archetypes, that could be because of their astrology, that could be because
Mhm.
of their experience, it could be because of all of those. It could be like, you know, a little bit of each.
Yeah.
We're- We all bring a different thing to the table. So to use each other in the best way possible, you know, opens up to creativity and is really fun.
Well, and it can be so supportive and helpful as well. You have to be willing to be vulnerable to express those ideas out loud though. And it sounds like for whatever reason your aunt was like, she was probably like, "Well, I wouldn't go see her. She can come see me."
Well, she came at it more from the place of like, I'd like to see her too, and so would this
Oh,
person.
there you go. There you go.
There,
Exactly.
it would open up space for so many more people to be with my niece than
Mhm.
just me and my mom.
Right. Right.
So
Well, and then you have all of those other things that come into consideration is like, does that fit into your niece's schedule? Does
sure,
that fit into, like all the
sure,
pieces that come into that? I guess the one thing that I want to quickly touch on, because I know we're coming up on just a few minutes left here, with regard to external resistance, like external energetic resistance. Um, you know, that's one thing where, like the way, and I've said this before in our videos, the way that I think of astrology is, I think of astrology as like the weather. Is that it? There's a weather forecast, and
hmm
then it's like, and then you actually experience the weather, and there can be some adjustments
yes,
and changes.
yeah.
One thing that I found very helpful, was starting to learn, um, the energies of the different planets and how they can impact larger energy patterns. There are some planets that are categorized as personal planets, there are some planets that are categorized as outer planets, and each of those planets and asteroids and the sun and the moon, um, all have certain characteristics to them that can um, can contribute to the energy cycles of certain energetic patterns. Like today is a new moon. And so we just ended a lunar cycle. And now, with this, when the new moon happens, we will begin a brand new lunar cycle. And the moon has a lot to do with the divine feminine, it has a lot to do with emotions. Um, and the other thing that's happening today is that the the nodes are shifting. The moon's nodes are shifting from what was it, Taurus and Scorpio to Aries and Libra. So the energy that we're going to be working with as a collective is shifting today. And so there may be um, there may be movement forward happening in the next several weeks that feels very, very different than what has happened over the last 18 months. And so for me, like, learning a little bit about the planets and the energy patterns of those planets and the cycles of those planets has really just helped me increase my own awareness of where I'm seeing those energy patterns, not only within my own personal life, but also, um, you know, within the collective.
Yeah. Yeah. I am totally with you on that. Um, learning as much as possible so that we can make our own, um, we can bring in our own understanding.
Hmm. It helps. It hel- the way I it has helped me is it's been like a translation. So like a translation of that connection to your intuition, to your solar plexus, to your navel chakra. It's helped to kind of translate how that energy um you know could be impacting me at various
Mhm.
times.
Yeah.
Yep. And then also too, if you're looking at a daily chart, you get to see where the trines, where the flowing energy is. You get to see where the squares are, where the
So
challenging aspects are.
you can go, "Ooh, okay, I'm feeling this thing. I'm experiencing this thing today. Let me open it up, take a look.
Mhm.
Uh, this is what's happening. Okay, so this is the hardness of this sign and
Mm,
this planet. What else is this does this planet and this sign offer me? Like,
yep.
how can I expand it from just being harsh? Because
Mhm.
all the signs and all the energies, right? There's a harshness and there's a lightness to it. So how
Right.
can I work with it? What is this planet in the sign asking of me? And how can I soften my experience?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a very good explanation because that's really that's how I utilize it. Like it's not even something that I look at every day anymore. But when I am sensing something that I'm not getting, a full read on,
Yeah.
then I will go and I will look at my chart and see where some of the challenging aspects are. And if it's something that's like connected to my home and connected to my communication or connected to my work or connected to
Mm,
relationships with other people, then I can put my attention there and
yes.
increase my awareness around what exactly is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think this was very helpful, hopefully for
Yeah.
others. Well,
I mean, there's
um,
so much more to be said.
oh, there's so much. The
For sure.
conversation will continue. Um, yeah. Okay. Announcements. Are you waiting for me on them?
I can't see your face.
We have.
It's just so yeah, so there's two major announcements I think that we have. The first one is that this Saturday, July 22nd, we launch our inaugural archetype workshop
Yay.
series, which I'm so excited about. We're diving deep into the guardian archetypes, which is the prostitute, the victim, and the saboteur. And we're going to go through exploring and discussing those archetypes further and how they work within everybody's lives. And then we're going to specifically talk about each participant's victim, saboteur, um, what am I missing? Victim,
Prostitute.
saboteur, and prostitute,
Mhm.
and where they are in their charts and how they're working together and how they can support them moving forward towards their vision. So that's the first announcement, and the second announcement is
The second announcement is that our mini course.
mhm,
Okay, so we have an amazing mini course. We're so excited about this too. Uh, it is a free mini course that talks about begins you on the journey of archetypes and vision statement work, and we will link to that in our description. Um, yeah, it's a great way to start the process. Um,
it just gives you
and
some really good foundational, information. And then it's like you can see if it's something, you'd be interested in exploring further.
yep, exactly. And then we also have uh, shortly there will be we'll be able to add this in a day or so. And new our vision statement is going to launch again.
Okay. So yeah,
So
we have some new dates for our free vision statement workshop. So keep an eye out for that. I don't know if it'll be out by the end of the week, but it'll probably be out early next week.
yep,
Those new dates.
you'll be able to see that. So all that being said, we will see you next week. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Have a fantastic day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.